Okay, so it's time for us to go ahead and get back into our coverage over the X-Men. And so with that being said, we're going to pick up with Wolverine issues number 97, 98, 99, and issue number 100. Now, this was a 4-part story arc that was really important for Wolverine, but also for the character better known as Cable. And here's the reason why, because it's Wolverine fighting against Cable's son, Tyler Dayspring. Now, the last few videos we did when it came to Wolverine, we kept getting hints of the idea of these two characters finally meeting one another and going to battle against one another. Well, that time had finally arrived in this 4-part story arc. And so as we get into the opening pages for Wolverine issue number 97, we're really picking up with, well, Wolverine and Jean Grey. And the reason why, because for Logan, he just got word that apparently Cyber had just broken out of prison recently. Now, for Cyber, he was broken out by Dark Riders, the Dark Riders, in an earlier storyline we had already covered. The Dark Riders used to work for Apocalypse, but now they work for Tyler Dayspring. And it's a whole idea that for the Dark Riders, their whole mindset is survival of the fittest. The strong may live, the weak must die. The strong may lead, the weak must follow. And so for the Dark Riders, they're following Tyler. Why? Because he proved that he is stronger than them. But either way, when it came to Dark Riders, they broke out Cyber. And the reason why, because they needed his adamantium that was bonded to his skin for a special reason for Wolverine. But for Logan, it's him now just getting word that Cyber had just been broken out of prison. Now for Wolverine, he wants to follow another lead. So he tells Jean Grey to go ahead and take him over to a company better known as Landau, Luckman, and Lake. Now, this is a company that we have seen many times in the early storylines that we had covered for Wolverine. Now, originally, we were told that this organization was just being used as a way to take care of Wolverine affairs. And that was really it. But we kind of got the idea that there's something going on with this organization, but unfortunately, we never got the information we needed. And so this is now Larry Hama trying to give us more pieces of that information. Now, when they do arrive on the offices, you do have Jean Grey realize that this building used to be 6 floors, but there's only 5. Now for Logan, he's right now looking for one particular door that has WC on it. Now, the reason why this door is so special because we get a flashback for Logan, and Logan tells us that he remembers a time where he was back in Madripoor and he stopped by one of the offices for this organization. And when he did, well, he ran to a guy known as Chang, the owner of that office. Now, he did ask Chang to pull out $50,000 because this company was taking care of his affairs. The thing was, Logan watched Chang walked through a door that had WC on it. Now when Chang had returned, Chang's clothes looked torn up because it seemed like he went through some kind of battle. But on top of that, for Chang, he did look a tad bit older. And so for Logan, he always wondered what was happening behind that door, WC. And so for Logan, in his current office that him and Jean Grey are at, they find another door that is also labeled WC. But getting back over to the present day is really more of us seeing Logan realize what WC stands for, Warp Chamber. And so you didn't have Jean Grey and Logan walk through the door that was left behind at this office. Now, when they do, they arrive at the main office of the entire organization. But here's the catch. Everyone has been killed off. Now, for Logan and Jean Grey, they also realize that this organization is working in a different dimension. Now, we're not really told where, but either way, when our two heroes arrive, they're kind of wondering like, where in the world are they? Now, you do have Logan realize there's somebody else in the room, and that would be a young boy named Emmett. Now, for Emmett, he is somewhat important for this chapter of the storyline, but that's really it. But for Emmett, he's kind of like, hey, I used to work for this organization, but everybody here is now officially dead. Now, the way you have Emmett talking to Logan and Jean Grey is kind of like he knows that these two characters are technically on his side. They were kind of brought here to help him out. But for Logan and Jean Grey, they have no idea what's going on. Now, for Emmett, he believes that somebody else had told Logan and Jean Grey what's going on in this area. But you do have Emmett trying his best to kind of keep them away from the main bad guy, and that would be Chimera. Now, Chimera is a brand new character being brought into the storyline, but for Logan, when he walks through one door, he ends up in a completely different room. It's just him, because that door had some kind of psychic block on it, which of course did not allow Emmett nor Jean Grey to follow him through that door. And so you now have Logan be confronted by Chimera. Now, Chimera is one of those characters where it kind of seemed like Marvel had some plans for her possibly, but honestly did nothing special with the character. But either way, we kind of get the idea that she might have a hand when it came to breaking out Cyber alongside with Tyler Daysbury, because for Logan, he kind of realized that she might be part of the whole master plan going on behind the scenes. Now, she does try to attack him, and this battle is very short-lived. You do have Logan being able to easily handle her, but you do have her being able to escape just like that, but kind of leaving us wondering like, okay, what is her connection to Tyler Dayspring? Did she really help out Tyler when it came to breaking out Cyber? We don't get the answers here in these pages, but right after she does leave, you then have Emmett and also Jean Grey being able to get through that door that blocked them earlier. But by the time they get inside, she's gone. But you also have Zoe Colwyn arrive as well. Now, for Zoe, she also works for the Landau, Luckman, and Lake organization. Matter of fact, we met her in an earlier storyline. And matter of fact, it was the same storyline where you had Cyber be broken out of prison. And so with that being said, she does appear saying like, listen, I'm here to help you, but I can't tell you what to actually do. All I can do for you right now is hand you this package and send you on your way back home to Madripoor for the next step of your journey. And so it kind of get the idea that Wolverine's on some kind of path that was laid out for him. But unfortunately for Zoe, she can't help him through that path at all. But as we get into the second chapter, issue number 98, we pick up with Wolverine waking up at the Princess Bar. Now, this is a callback to the early days of Chris Claremont working on the Wolverine title. He's the one who established the whole idea of the Princess Bar and gave us a whole set of characters around Logan while he was here in Madripoor. But this is kind of like Larry Hama moving on from Madripoor. And the reason why I'm saying that because for Wolverine, he wakes up in the Princess Bar and he sees two people that he used to work with in the early days of Chris Claremont's Wolverine that are officially dead. Archie and O'Donnell. They've been killed off, and it seems like they have been killed off by Logan. But the problem is, Logan realized the entire bar, the Princess Bar, has been completely wrecked. And the problem is, it does seem like Logan's the one who had attacked this place. Now, for Logan, he does not remember anything at all. He's kind of like, what in the world happened here, and why can't I remember? And so we get this small flashback where you had Jean Grey and Logan arrive back at the Rockefeller Center. When they had arrived there, you had Logan open up that package that Zoe had left behind. And when he did, all it was a key and an address on there. But the problem was that once he had read the address, he blacked out. But getting back over to the present day, you do have Logan realize there's one person still alive, and that would be Rose. Now for Rose, it's kind of her just saying her final goodbye. She was another character given to us in the early days of Wolverine series, but for Rose, it's her saying goodbye to Logan. But it's her also kind of saying like, you were always a pistol. You always were a firecracker. Now for me personally, it's kind of like her saying like, you were technically used by somebody else. But you did have Logan go outside the bar. And once he does arrive, he is completely surrounded by the police force of Madripoor. And of course, they're still being led by Chief Ty. Now, for Logan, he's kind of like, listen, what I did in there is completely messed up. Like, I deserve to get arrested. And so you have the police go ahead and arrest him and take him over to the prison. Now, while you have Logan in prison, he overhears a call between the police chief and also somebody else. Now, this person is telling us that they're going to leave the prison behind for like an hour or two to allow this other person to come inside to have a private conversation with Wolverine. Most likely a very bad conversation. But either way, for Logan, he kind of realized like, okay, there's a possibility there's something going on behind the scenes. And that is when he is confronted by Dirt Nap. Now, Dirt Nap was a character we met in an earlier storyline where I had mispronounced his name. But either way, for Dirt Nap, he's working for Tyler Dayspring. He's all like, listen, my boss had basically set you up. You're going to see sooner or later what's going to happen to you down the road. And so you have Dirt Nap leave just like that. But right after you have Dirt Nap leave, you then have Tiger appear. Now for Tiger, she was an ex-lover of Wolverine, but also she's a crime lord in Madripoor. And so it's her saying like, you left this behind a long time ago, but also here's this weapon, this hacksaw to kind of help you break free from your binds so that you are able to escape. Because for Logan, he realized that he was not the one who had killed his friends at the Princess Bar. It was, of course, somebody else. We already know who it is. But either way, for Logan, he's like, okay, cool. It's time for me to go ahead and break free. But right after you have Tiger leave, you did have two other people arrive at the prison. And that would be the Prince of Madripoor and also General Coy. Now, these two characters, they were like enemies of Logan in the early days of this Wolverine series. And so this is Larry Hama saying, it's time for these two characters to go away because by the end of this book, they're going to die. You'll see what I mean here in a moment. But you didn't have the two guys walk into the prison with all their henchmen. Now, right off the bat, we learn here that these two guys were the ones who were responsible for what had happened at the Princess Bar. They were the ones who had set up Logan, make it seem like he was the one who had killed off people at the Princess Bar. But in reality, it was these two. Matter of fact, one of the henchmen has a weapon that's very similar to Wolverine's claws. Make it seem like it was Logan, but in reality, it wasn't. Either way, you do have Logan being able to take all the henchmen out. Once he does that, you then have Logan go after the prince, but you then have Coy shoot the prince right in the back of the head, killing him off just like that. Now for Coy, he was kind of hoping to be left alone. Like, listen, it was the prince's idea. I don't want to do this. Just please leave me alone and I'll leave you alone. But you did have Tiger appear behind Coy and shoot him in the back. So just like that, Coy and the prince are both officially gone from Marvel Comics. But you do have Tiger being able to give Logan a getaway car. But for Logan, he realized his journey is not done just yet because you didn't have Logan head over to, well, Landau, Luckman, and Lake's office here in Madripoor because there was one there in the early days of Marvel Comics. But either way, you do have Logan find the same door once again that has WC, that stands for Warp Chamber. And so you have Logan use that door to teleport somewhere else. But while being teleported, he's then confronted by Zoe, who does tell him like, hey, listen, you have to come with me, Logan, and learn your fate. And so now we're kind of getting into the next part of his life or the next part of his path that he has to take in this storyline. But as we get into the next chapter, we're now picking up with Wolverine arriving in Akaba. Now for Akaba, this is a very special location for a lot of different reasons. And let me explain why. You see, for Akaba, This is the birthplace for Apocalypse. And so for Wolverine, he knows because this is also where you had Tyler Dayspring kind of decide where he wanted to take up the mantle of Apocalypse. Because with Apocalypse supposedly no longer around, is allowing Tyler Dayspring to kind of take up that mantle to become the new Apocalypse. Now, when Wolverine arrives here, he is confronted by Zoe. And is Zoe telling him, like, listen, there are people behind the scenes who are trying to lay out a certain path for you. It's up to you to break away from the path that they had laid out for you. And you must find their base. You must find their citadel. Now, you do have her just disappear because she has to handle a different situation with a different character. And of course, that'll be Chimera for killing off different employees of the company she works for. But right after she does disappear, for Logan, he's then confronted by a guy whose goal is to lead him over to the citadel that Tyler is currently using. But now we have to jump over to Madripoor. Now, when we do, we pick up with, well, Cannonball. Now, for Cannonball, he was sent there to Madripoor as a way to keep Logan company. That was a quest done by Charles Xavier. The problem is that when you have Cannonball arrive at Madripoor at the Princess Bar, he realized it's a complete wreck. And we know why. In the last chapter, we already saw it. But for Cannonball, he has no idea. Now, for Cannonball, he is completely surrounded by some thugs, but luckily for him, he was saved by Tiger. Now for Tiger, she kind of realized that this guy is a close friend of one of her lovers, or her main lover, Wolverine. Now, for a brief moment, we do jump back over to Logan. Now, for Logan, it's really more him just being guided over to the Citadel. But while you have Logan being guided over to the Citadel, back over in Madripoor, you had Tiger take Cannonball over to the Landau Lake and Luckman building. And when she does, she shows Cannonball the same door Logan used earlier. And of course, it teleports him over to where Logan is at. Now, once you do have Logan being able to get inside the Citadel, he realized that the Dark Riders are pushing in or hoarding in people who are from Egypt into one particular room. Now, for Logan, he hates the idea of what he is seeing, but for Logan kind of realized he can't just blow his cover just yet. Now, for Cannonball, he also arrives in Akaba as well. Now, when he does arrive in Akaba, he finds the footprints that belongs to Logan. So for him, he's kind of like, great, I have to hurry up because it does seem like Logan might need my help very soon. Now, to close on the third chapter of the storyline, you have Logan get jumped by Tyler and the Dark Riders. Now, for Tyler, like I said, he's trying to become a brand new Apocalypse, but he also needs horsemen. Well, bam. Here's an idea. Why not make Wolverine your first horseman? But he also realized that Wolverine needs adamantium. And so for Tyler, what he did was he killed off Cyber to get the adamantium to get it back over to Logan, or to give it to Logan. Now, here's the thing, because for Tyler, he also realized that for Logan, he's slowly turning into a feral beast. Let me explain. You see, for Magneto, he had ripped off the adamantium off the bones of Logan. Now, when he did that, Charles Xavier had learned that for Wolverine, when his mutation or his mutant abilities began to kick in, it was slowly turning him into a feral beast. It was thanks to adamantium that had stopped that process. But thanks to Magneto ripping off the metal off the bones of Logan, that process began to continue again. And so for Logan, he was slowly turning into a feral beast. But it's now Tyler saying, well, look, I killed off Cyber and now I have his adamantium. Once I give that over to you, that process should stop once again. But I'm also going to mind wipe you and then make you one of my 4 horsemen. And so this leads us into the 100th issue of Wolverine. Now, here's the thing, because we are seeing Tyler go out of his way to rebond adamantium to the body of Wolverine. But here's the thing, for Cyber, he had a lower grade version of adamantium. So the question is right now, could Wolverine's body actually handle the rebonding process of adamantium once again? But on top of that, how will a lower grade of adamantium truly affect the body of Wolverine? Now, while you have Tyler going ahead and trying that process, you then see Cannonball and also Zoe hiding in the vents of the Citadel. Now, for Zoe and also Cannonball, it's the two of them kind of realizing like, okay, cool. Tyler's trying to turn Wolverine into his next horseman. Got it. But it's also the two characters kind of realizing that it's also Tyler trying to bring back Apocalypse. Because remember, they had taken in a bunch of people from Egypt. And so right now, all those people, their life energy is currently being drained into this one special coffin where supposedly Apocalypse's body is currently in. And so it's them two kind of realizing that Tyler is probably trying to bring back Apocalypse. But now we kind of get into the idea of us seeing Tyler begin the bonding process. Now here's the problem though, because for Logan, he's trying his best to fight back against the bonding process. But unfortunately, he can't do much at the moment. Now, here's the thing, because for Cannonball, he wants to get down there and to actually help Logan out. He's kind of like, hey, listen, we got to help him. But for Zoe, she says, we can't help him at the moment. Until you have Logan find a way to stop the bonding process, that is when you are allowed to strike. But for right now, unfortunately, you must stay up here and watch the bonding process happen in front of you when it comes to your friend Logan. Now, here's the thing, because for the adamantium bonding process, it's actually bonding to Wolverine. It does seem like it is working. Now, for Cannonball, he does jump into battle. But here's the problem. It's the Dark Riders. It's Tyler. It's too many for him to handle on his own. So yes, he does cause some commotion. He does cause some damage in the actual room. But the problem is he gets easily overrun by all the different members of the Dark Riders and also Tyler. Now, once you do have Cannonball be taken out, you have him call out for help, like, Logan, please help me. And that right there begins to work for Logan, because then he begins to reject the process. He begins to reject the mind wipe. And with him doing that, it causes the system to overload. And of course, it does explode in the room. Now, what Logan actually also did was he shot out all the adamantium inside his body like shrapnel, so killing off a few of the Dark Riders just like that. Now, for Tyler, his main goal is to make sure that the chamber being used right now to bring Apocalypse back to life is still going okay. But also his main goal is kind of, take care of Logan as well. And so this kind of leads into the ending of the storyline, because when it comes to Logan, he becomes full on savage. Because when it came to Tyler, when Tyler had tried to bond the adamantium to his body and you had Logan fight against it, it got rid of the last portion of Logan's human side. So now he is just a savage beast. And so we see Logan just going out of his way, killing off the Dark Riders, killing off Tyler as well. And you even have Logan tell Cannonball to tell Cable that he is sorry for what he had did to Cable's son, because at this point right here, this is the official death of Tyler, and this character does not reappear ever again in Marvel Comics, which is honestly a tad bit wild, because with the whole idea of Krakoa, you would think like Tyler would come back, but he doesn't. But either way, it's Logan saying he cannot go back home to the school of Charles Xavier, because now he's full on feral. Now, the very last page of this storyline is really more of us seeing Stick talk to Elektra. It really is more Stick telling Elektra like, okay, here's your mission. Your mission is to find Logan, because now the man has gone off the wrong path. And so now we must help him get back onto the right path once again. But this is where we're going to end today's comic book video. So please leave me a like down below and subscribe. But guys, see y'all next time. Later.